as I explained, as I went through the sins, they do all have a functional survival advantage for us from a kind of an evolutionary perspective, which doesn't all sit well with us today, but they are to some extent inherited. And 7 sins, one for each of the week. We all have the capacity to do these things pretty much at any time. They're all related, as I said, to instincts that drive survival, and they become problems when they're done in excess. But in this day and age, it's easier than ever for that to happen. So Ren's got a new album out, and I'm going to check out all the songs. Stuart here, I'm a therapist from the UK, and what you get here are my immediate and initial thoughts of music videos that are recommended to me. This one wasn't specifically recommended, but I've always got some time for some Ren, and I figured I might as well start at the beginning. So let's start. Track 1, 7 Sins from Ren's new album. Is that Welsh? I've got no idea how to translate that. So if you do, please let me know in the comments so I can understand a bit more what was said there. Thank you. So let's go back a bit.
I lay broken on the kitchen floor. I clawed at the laminate. Pain wandered my body, an uninvited guest. Bones of a home where the devil could rest. I cursed the gods, cursed my messiah, cursed my maker. I cursed all of creation. There I lay, feeble and thin. Sick boy, 7 my sins. Have you ever felt pain?
Sick boy, 7 deadly sins. So, pain so bad, he's crawling along the laminate floor. It's so bad he's cursing the gods and everyone else he can think of. And it sounds similar to what did I do before? Masochist, where you're in so much pain and misery that it comes out as anger and wanting to destroy everything and almost seeing the world burn. And on a completely different level to this, and I'm not comparing myself to Ren, not by a long shot, but not too long ago I passed a kidney stone. I was in a Teams meeting of all places online and suddenly felt very ill with this pain down my side, and within 15 minutes I was crawling along the floor shouting some of the most disgusting expletives I have ever shouted. It was horrendous. The pain was horrendous. I couldn't imagine being in that much pain on a constant and consistent basis. I really don't know how I could cope with that. But that's what went through my mind when I was thinking about crawling along the laminate floor.
I lay, feeble and thin. Sick boy, 7 my sins. Have you ever felt pain? Stomach wrenching, unrelenting. Tell me, have you ever felt pain? Condescending, muscles clenching. Tell me, have you ever felt pain? A rose emerges from the pavement cracks. I'll write my eulogy with broken glass. Eternal parallax.
Pain.
Pain the author, I accept this. Pain the teacher, bruised apprentice. Pain was this.
Pain the author, I accept this. This line is standing out to me for obvious reasons. Probably if you've been following me for some time and seen some of my early videos, especially by Ren, then you've come across me talk about this idea of acceptance. Pain the author, I accept this. Pain the author. Pain is writing my narrative. Pain is writing my story. This is how it's going to be, so I am going to try and accept this. I wonder if this fits with that previous line of eternal parallax. A parallax is something that shifts, isn't it? It changes your point of view. I think if you've got an iPhone, then the wallpaper can have a parallax or parallax effect, where it shifts slightly when you move it around. And I wonder if that eternal parallax line means I have to shift the way I see this, how I relate to it, how I go on to respond to it, instead of fighting it or struggling with it. Let's try an element of acceptance of it. And that doesn't mean resigning to it either. It means a willingness to allow it for what it is, without the struggle that often compounds on top of it. And I understand that this is incredibly difficult. I'm not sitting here saying, just accept it, just make room for it. I'm trying to describe a very complex concept in between a few lines of a music track. But if you want to know more about this, then check out a really good book called Facing the Storm by Dr. Ray Owen, which is all about acceptance and commitment therapy and chronic pain. Might be helpful for some of you.
Pain the author, I accept this. Pain the teacher, bruised apprentice. Pain resisting, pain will come. Pain the mother, I'm the son. Pain that splits you, and too many hits you. The dark and the light will converge to one. Pain that twists you, the heavens dismiss you. The Father, the Ghost, and the Holy Son. Body bags.
Those lines there about pain splitting you and the dark and the light. Ren sings about this regularly, doesn't he? Those two parts of us, the dark and the light, but we are one, and we need to find a way to find some balance in ourselves. And I guess this works on a few levels too. You can't have good without bad, because you would have no point of reference for what's good. You can't have pleasant emotions without experiencing unpleasant emotions. You can't have love without experiencing the feeling of loss. It's that coin again I often talk about. You have to have the whole coin, both sides of it.
One pain that twists you, the heavens dismiss you. The Father, the Ghost, and the Holy Son. Body bagging me. Zip it up quick, get their things on B. I search for peace in the belly of a beast. Sick boy, onomatopoeia. Running up a fever, following a leader. Wanna be me, huh? Grass isn't greener. Bright light, seizure, dynamite.
Wanna be me, the grass isn't greener. That's an interesting line. People looking up to Ren, maybe looking at his talent, his social media reach, how quickly he's growing, his fame, wishing they were him. But he's saying, be careful what you wish for, because it's not all roses. The grass isn't greener, because it comes with a whole load of literal pain. And, one may argue Ren wouldn't be where he is today if it wasn't for his experience. And do you really want to have that experience?
Following a leader. Wanna be me, huh? Grass isn't greener. Bright light, seizure, dynamite dealer. Dine at the table of the coroner, top for 13 years and I've been feeling so stuck. Lucky number 13, just my luck. Empires tumble, rubble and dust. The universe shrinks and the planets combust. In God we trust. God tied a noose to his neck and he walked to the edge and he jumped. Angels wept, I bear witness, watching the whole thing unfold from my bed. A bed where I never deep rest, a bed where I'm always depressed. A bed with the human oppressed, a bed for a tomb where I slept. A bed in the room that's a womb for this mess. Sick boy bitten by a tick boy, tell me how it feels to be buried while you breathe. Stones and
that whole section there about being in that bed.
Noose to his neck and he walked to the edge and he jumped. Angels wept, I bear witness, watching the whole thing unfold from my bed. A bed where I never deep rest, a bed where I'm always depressed. A bed with the human oppressed, a bed for a tomb where I slept. A bed in the room that's a womb for this mess. Sick boy bitten by a tick.
He's saying he had visions of ending it whilst in this bed. A bed where I never deep rest, a bed where I'm always depressed, a human oppressed, a bed as a tomb, a womb for this mess. And that all makes sense, doesn't it? For someone who is experiencing pain and fatigue and literally is bedridden. But it's not like when you lie in bed, when you are tired and it feels nice and comfy and cozy. This feels like, for all intents and purposes, a deathbed, a tomb containing a human body that can't get up and can't do anything. Is that really living? Just imagine the impact that must have on your mind. No wonder I think he was envisaging everything coming to an end.
For a tomb where I slept, a bed in the room that's a womb for this mess. Sick boy bitten by a tick boy, tell me how it feels to be buried while you breathe. Stones and sticks boy, pain is a gift boy, hard to make a stand when you crawl on your knees. And I kneel at the altar of my own disease and I beg this guy for mercy. Mercy never came, that did me dirty. 33 and hurting, cursing. Jesus died at 33 and still my sins are lurking. Gears are turning, future stays uncertain. Surgeon incision, murder ambition. Fear of the unknown preserves a religion. Denounced the gods when my body went missing. Back then the
Fear of the unknown preserves a religion. That's a very interesting line. And there's lots of biblical references throughout. And I know from my experience that when people think they are close to the end and they haven't been particularly religious throughout their lives or had any form of faith, that they start to take another look. They start to reevaluate that position to perhaps try and find some comfort in what potentially comes next. And this beat and that flow there is sick. And that is not a word I use often, but just that the production of this, just the that kind of orchestral parts and the beat and the flow, it's just so well put together.
Fear of the unknown preserves a religion. Denounced the gods when my body went missing. Back then, the pain spray ricochet like a Mac 10. Hot lead hit the bed that was trapped in. Red wing seraphim out of God's grace. Cried tears from heaven like clapping. Stick pins in the voodoo Hendrix. Thick skin, stay humble Kendrick. Stay skeptic, check the biometrics. Bloodstained crime scene.
Reference then to Tears from Heaven by Eric Clapton. One of my most favourite songs that I haven't heard in a very long time, and always without fail that song will bring a tear to my eye. Maybe I should record a video about it.
Stick skin, stay humble Kendrick. Stay skeptic, check the biometrics. Bloodstained crime scene forensic. Lights on, lights out. Fade into the background. So down, running from the silhouette of self-doubt. By now, really should have figured this shit out. Lights on, lights out. Smack down. Let it be. Quote John Lennon. Click clack, John got shot for attention. What does that tell you about the good of intention?
Is it me, or is Ren's voice changing as this goes on? It's becoming less and less like his own and more like something else is taking over. It's got a bit of a demonic almost tone to it.
Quote John Lennon, click clack, John got shot for attention. What does that tell you about the good of intentions? Bitterness formed in a storm of aggression. Prophets get dropped, imagining heaven. Martin Luther, Mahatma, or dead. 6-6 followed by 6 and 7. Build them, praise them, bury them, dead. I was born to be half a man with half a...
And there were various references there to some people who I think were killed because they were supposedly kind of too big or too famous, I guess. John Lennon because the Beatles were supposedly bigger than God or bigger than religion, perhaps. And Martin Luther King and Mahatma Gandhi, both killed. People who have tried to bring some good and peace to the world, they're just taken out. And again, those biblical connections, 666, the number of the beast, and he referenced the belly of the beast earlier, and then 6 and 7, and 6 and 7 makes 13, which again has been mentioned before earlier on in the song.
Followed by 6 and 7, build them, praise them, bury them, dead. I was born to be half a man with half a chance. My heart isn't half righteous, half is down and half a gram.
I was born to be half a man. Is that another reference to his physical health? He's saying he's not a whole man because of what he's been through. But is he saying he was born that way? It was always going to turn out that way. I was born to be half a man. That suggests some form of predisposed path, which I don't think I've heard Ren suggest before. That's interesting.
I was born to be half a man with half a chance. My heart isn't half righteous, half is down and half a gram. Hard though troubles and thoughts stay darker than Urukai master plan. Sharper than glass shards, splinter and cinnamon. Irony could kill a man. Pain makes money when the music lands. Expand, pay me my cheese, rain down parmesan. Followed by seven whole sins for yourself.
You hear that in the background? That's 666 followed by 7. So another 666 reference. Let's have another listen.
Pay me my cheese, rain down parmesan. Followed by seven whole sins for a self-made Armageddon. Sin 1, pride. Pride makes a man kill a man for his ego to survive. Sin 2, lust makes the grass look greener. Crucifies trust. Sin 3, gluttony. Humans consume planet Earth.
Okay, so he's going to go through the sins here, I think. It sounds like he's going through them. So let's go back to that. Where's...
Followed by seven whole sins for a self-made Armageddon. Sin 1, pride. Pride makes a man kill a man for his ego to survive.
I mean, pride's a really interesting one, isn't it? You know, it's a normal feeling that gives us drive, you know, but when that's driven into success, it essentially becomes narcissism, thinking that you are better than everyone else, despite there quite often being evidence to the contrary. You know, not needing other people, being really vain. But underneath this constant drive of looking for reassurance, you know, there's that constant drive for looking for praise. And if they don't get that reassurance and they don't get that praise, then that's when the anger and the frustration and the persistence comes out. And that's very challenging for people on the other end of that. And I think, but don't quote me on this, that there's some research out there that shows from brain scans that people who meet the criteria of being narcissistic actually have similar brain imagery as people who feel social rejection and social isolation. And when people who are narcissistic experience that pain, you know, when they experience being let down and the pain that comes from that, this imagery says that they feel that pain a lot more, to a higher degree of severity than someone who wouldn't meet the criteria of being narcissistic, which is why they do what they do. They try to avoid that pain. They try to avoid it at all costs. And their avoidance strategy for that is to try and get that constant reassurance and that praise seeking. I mean, that's obviously a very simplistic view before the personality and neuroscience experts jump on this bit, but I think you get the gist.
A self-made Armageddon. Sin 1, pride. Pride makes a man kill a man for his ego to survive. Sin 2, lust makes the grass look greener. Crucifies trust.
Lust has a quite obvious functional and evolutionary advantage. It allows us to be attracted to someone, you know, have sex with them, have babies, and ensure the survival of the human species. But again, to excess, it causes a whole host of social problems in terms of affairs and impact on relationships. And there's also difficulties for when you lust over things that are illegal or aren't socially accepted, and how you then become portrayed by others. It causes loads of difficulties.
Ego to survive. Sin 2, lust makes the grass look greener. Crucifies trust. Sin 3, gluttony. Humans consume planet Earth, gets a frontal lobotomy. 4,
gluttony. You know, food used to be scarce. We would cram as much of it into ourselves as we could to increase those fat reserves, to get us through times when we couldn't eat, we couldn't get access to food. And that makes loads of sense. But as we know, and it's common sense, an excess of gluttony leads to obesity. And that brings with it a whole host of, you know, physical problems and mental health problems.
Sin 3, gluttony. Humans consume planet Earth, gets a frontal lobotomy. 4, sloth. Rinse and repeat, reruns, repeat, time lost. Sin 5, envy.
sloth repeats reruns. So I'm envisaging, Ren's thinking of someone lying there watching reruns of programs that they've already seen before. They already know what's going to happen. But sloth can prevent us from doing so much that we burn out. A little bit of laziness can be helpful to rejuvenate ourselves, so we are prepared to do more later. We get our energy back, we rest. So those lazy Sundays, those early nights you have when you are tired, no problem with them at all. And over the long term are probably really helpful. The extreme would be costly from an evolution perspective if you didn't help hunt the food, if you didn't help gather the wood or the nuts and the berries. Then why should you be part of the tribe? You'd be outcast, which would pretty much mean death. And there's still quite a kind of a similar perspective in today's world. If you're seen as a bit of a shirker or not playing your part in society, you can find yourself becoming almost shunned. And we've got to remember that the people who are making those judgments often don't know the full picture of what is going on for that person. But then that kind of feeds into itself, because that person then feels even more hopeless and even more like even more in a sloth state to try to use the words of the sins, and that reinforces itself.
4. Sloth, rinse and repeat, reruns, repeat, time lost. Sin 5, envy, that's when one man's win is another man's frenzy. Sin 6.
One man's win is another man's frenzy for envy. And envy can again be helpful. We compare ourselves to others. We compare ourselves to perhaps similar people who have accomplished things that maybe we want to accomplish, and we try and learn from them, and we use that to better ourselves, to move ourselves forward. The problem with this one is that there is this other side where instead of us trying to improve ourselves, we instead try and bring the other person or the other people down. So instead of almost kind of moving up to them, we try to bring them down to us. And that can become very malicious. And in this day and age of social media, it's easy for people to envy the lifestyle of others that they see through social media. But that's obviously just the snapshot that those people are sharing. That one perfect photo, which may have taken hours to take. And on the flip side of things on social media, social media often mock people who aren't seen as perfect. So it's a bit of a double whammy there.
Sin 5, envy, that's when one man's win is another man's frenzy. Sin 6, wrath, rage, vengeance, killers, psychopath. Sin 7, greed.
Wrath, anger, a natural emotion. If you sense some injustice to yourself or others, then this is what motivates us to push back and to protect ourselves. But the emotion and the behavior are two separate things. Anger is an emotion, aggression is the behavior. And I've heard of some really interesting brain studies that show the more that someone perceives their hurt, either physically or emotionally, the more serious the punishing behavior that they are going to respond with is going to be. So essentially, the more you hurt me, I'm going to retaliate in kind. The more I'm going to hurt you. And you can see how that can quickly escalate.
6, wrath, rage, vengeance, killers, psychopath. Sin 7, greed. Greed plants a seed that will destroy us all if we succumb to greed. If we take what we need and take more than we need, then our oceans will bleed. Still.
Greed. No matter how much you've got, you want more. And not only do you end up with behaviors to try and create more and to get more, you get behaviors to try and protect what you have already made. And that comes above everything. That is the priority, even above human life in some circumstances. We could talk at length here about balancing wealth and happiness and accumulating more wealth to the detriment of other fellow humans. Let's save that one for another day, I think. That's a big topic.
that will destroy us all if we succumb to greed. If we take what we need and take more than we need, then our oceans will bleed. Still we feed and we sleep and repeat. Then we exile the shepherds and follow the sheep. We inherit the meat, we inherit this world that we bruise and we beat. We inherit this vanity, circles of creeds. Inherit the liars, the murderous thieves. One sin for every one day of the week.
Cool. I like this way at the end there he kept using this phrase inherit, and we do, you know, this as I explained as I went through the sins, they do all have a functional survival advantage for us from a kind of an evolutionary perspective, which doesn't all sit well with us today, but they are to some extent inherited. And 7 sins, one for each of the week. You know, we all have the capacity to do these things pretty much at any time. They're all related, as I said, to instincts that drive survival. And they become problems when they're done in excess. But in this day and age, it's easier than ever for that to happen. A lot to think about there. I love this as the opening track to the album. I'm really looking forward to hearing the rest of it. I think that's me for this one. If you like this video, then please consider a subscription. You know, it helps to let me know what I'm doing is helpful or at least interesting, and that you might want to see some more. Thanks everyone. Take care.